this morning, the CEO of Disney went on TV and said that what writers and actors are asking for is not realistic because they just don't have enough money to pay us. But he said this at a billionaire retreat where he was hanging out with Mark Zuckerberg and David Zaslav that they all flew to on their private jets. And you know what? I don't think that that's fucking realistic. Here's a dose of reality for you, Bob. Writers cannot afford to pay their mortgages. Actors are not able to make a living in Los Angeles anymore. That is reality to us, not flying around on private jets. And until you accept that reality, we are going to be out here on the picket lines withholding our labor, depriving you of your product, and you will not make another dollar off of us until you come back to the table and face reality and negotiate with us as you have refused to do. And until you do that, there will be no acting and no writing.
For as long as I can remember, this ear has never heard anything in its life, but a few weeks ago, I was able to hear out of this ear. I took this test to see if my ear could handle a cochlear implant or not, and what I did is the doctor made me put on like this huge hearing aid to see if my ear could like recognize sound and speech. She literally had to ask me if I was okay because I was just sitting there in shock, like hearing all this sound like I've never heard before. Me hearing sound is just so weird to me. It's kind of like a hearing person not being able to hear sound. So she started testing me to like hear some of the beeps, and I was like hearing some of the beeps. My ear was like picking up on that, but then the speech came in and my ear was like, I'm out. Because the whole point of the test is to test your ear to not only hear the beeps but also hear the speech, so that's what like determines if you can get a cochlear or not. She started playing voices, and like one of the voices was a guy's voice, and I could not understand anything. She kept like playing this one guy's voice 30 times, and I was so lost. I started guessing, and then I was like so convinced that he was saying red and green, so like I kept saying red and green, and she kept playing it, and I was like, let's move on. I got it now. It's red and green. Apparently the whole time he was saying washing machine. I just can't understand men's voices. Not that I need to anyway. But yeah, she was like, yeah, this cochlear is not going to work for you anyways. And I was like, yeah, I figured.
This is a list of 5 things that I'll never have to deal with because I have a disability. Sometimes missing out can be a good thing. Number 1, we've got the war. If we ever get attacked, or more likely attack somebody else, that is not my problem. While all the able-bodied men are out fighting people that they don't know, I'll be safe at home, fighting the people I do know. Number 2, in keeping with the theme of war, I'll never have to participate in a paintball match. While on one hand I appreciate paintball because it's just artsy war, I'm sorry that I don't want to get drilled with a 200-mile-per-hour ball of paint. If I wanted to cover myself in paint, I'm going to do it at the velocity of my choosing. Thank you very much. Speaking of pain, number 3, stepping on a Lego. You guys make stepping on a Lego seem like the most painful experience the human body can go through. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But the fact that I don't have to find out, I'm grateful for. Number 4, and in keeping with the theme of stepping, my shoes are always in pristine condition. Not only that, but I am immune to all foot-related practical jokes. You try to tie my shoes together so I get up and trip? Joke's on you, buddy. I can't walk. You try to step on the back of my shoe so I trip? Joke's on you, buddy. I can't walk. You know what? Any practical joke for that matter. You want to steal my nose? Joke's on you. I can't walk. Last but not least, we have gym class. You're telling me you guys had to wake up at 7 a.m., go to school, and then exercise about it? Nope. High school was scary enough as it is. Having to do all of that while sweating? Couldn't be me.
We did it! We did it! We did it! We did it! No!
Congrats, you've become class traitor scum. All it costs you is the small price of your dignity, your morality, your ethics.
Came out to my mom, and that was really, really hard, you know. I'm sorry, I mean, emotionally it was hard, but I mean more logistically, because she doesn't speak any English, and I don't really speak Vietnamese, so it was literally logistically difficult to come out to my mom. We're sitting in the car one day, and I just go, Mom, in Vietnam, do they have people born boy, brain girl? And she goes, what? Born boy, brain girl. And she goes, okay, I don't know. Sometime And I go, okay, me, that. And she goes, no. I go, yes, Mom. She goes, no, you not girl, you boy. And I'm like, Mom, boy, girl. And she goes, no, you boy, you lucky, because boy is good and girl is bad. And I go, why? And she goes, I don't know. This has gone on for like 45 minutes. Boring, where he's yelling at each other. Eventually, I get through to her a little bit, and she goes, okay, I understand, but to me, I still see you as boy. And I go, okay, Mom, you see me as boy. I sad, I kill myself. And she goes, oh, you girl. I'm like, yes, Mom, exactly. Man, I hope no one steals that joke.
She's changed, Pinky. She's not evil or scary anymore. And she definitely doesn't want to gobble you up. Well, duh. Huh? I know that. Sheesh, Twilight. I'm almost as big as her. How's she gonna gobble me up? So...
Imagine failing a student for saying biological woman and then bragging about it and actually thinking you're in the right.
Conversely, imagine being this proud and confident when you are so very wrong because the term that you just used has been rejected by the scientific consensus as transphobic and meaningless. Is the idea that there are clear definitional boundaries that separate binary sex is a myth. We're reminded of this every time somebody comes up with a new metric, a new sex test that does not capture the same people as the previous one. A great deal of what we call sex differences are actually learned behavior, it's gender. And to the extent that we can call anybody a biological female, all we're saying is that they are living human as opposed to, I guess, robots.
He believes in free speech, but that ends when you are intentionally or unintentionally participating in systematic harm. So the word biological woman is systematic harm, and therefore you do not get to participate in free speech. I don't think she knows what free speech is because she's saying, hey, I believe in free speech and the right to free speech, but that ends when I don't like what you're saying.
This very clumsy rhetorical move where she takes her professor's concern with harm, with dehumanizing language, and reframes it as a difference of opinion is interesting and ironic. It's a facts over feelings tactic. She's trying to mischaracterize her professor's concern as just a feeling, in contrast to the student's facts. And it's ironic because the student is wrong on the facts, right? Because science tells us that there's no such thing as a biological woman, that sex exists on a spectrum, not in a binary. She is, in fact, arguing for feelings over fact. And she just doesn't even know it. That is how ill-equipped she is to have this discussion. So even if she didn't deserve to fail because her language causes harm, she deserves to fail because she doesn't actually understand the language that she's using in the first place.
Done this before just goes to further prove my point that we have a real issue happening in our educational system.
If our educational system is producing students like you, learners like you, then yes, I would agree. We do have very clear evidence of a problem.
Sound way too full of myself. You're right, and I ain't even made it to dessert. Shake what you thought they gave you.
Who created this idea of yoga clothing? Because it does not match yoga at all. And this falls into the pseudo yoga culture and the pseudo yoga industry that is about the outward appearance, that is making it a business, that is making it a fashion statement with none of the responsibility, none of the accountability, and again, nothing to do with the actual values of what yoga is. Like, what are these companies doing with all this money? You know what I mean? The founder himself created a name, Lululemon, because he found it funny that Japanese people could not pronounce the word L, which is why he created the name Lululemon. I mean, that's the founder, the former founder, the person who was the creator of Lululemon. Like, how is that brand? This brand is not ethical at all. So many of these popular yoga clothing brands, again, have nothing to do with yoga, make loads of money, and actually do not serve the community in any way or give back or do something with that money that makes them more ethical as a brand. So why are people giving money to something that literally has nothing to do with yoga values, or what yoga is about?
I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl in the world. That's all that you'll let me be. Oh, I'm just a girl living in captivity. Your rule of law.
So I have this theory that trans people aren't socialized as men or women. We're socialized as trans.
So I want to reorient this a little bit to say that we are actually socialized into the system of gender. And I think why it's important to say that is because there is ultimately no true man and no true woman. You know, and the fact is that we are socialized into the rules to police each other, to say whether or not you are allowed to have gender, right? Trans people know this very clearly, but actually everybody knows this experience, right? My experience of understanding that gender is not mine, it is something that is given and taken from me, was honestly something that I discovered when I was like a little fat kid, right? Like there was no way in which I was going to get to embrace girlhood by virtue of my fat body. As a child, I already knew that gender was taken away from me, that it is not a reality for me. And as I've continued on as a fat person, I continue to not be able to consent to my gender. And so it is more important for me to understand that gender as a system, because when I understand gender as a system, then I am better able to establish solidarity across many people, not just trans people. And what I find is like oftentimes when I am in relationship, you know, with other disabled folks or folks of color and Black folks, right, they will say the same thing, which is that if I ask them the question of like, you know, do you feel like gender has ever been taken away from you? Almost everybody is going to say yes. Or like, do you feel like you can accurately play at gender? Like most people are going to say that they cannot, right? And the reason is because gender is fundamentally, especially within the American context, a colonial white supremacist project, right? And so when we decide to deconstruct, to take away the concept of an acceptable iteration of binary gender, then we are better able to facilitate an idea of acceptance across many types of people, right? And I think the other part of this is that I would be remiss to say that trans people themselves also uphold gender and binaristic and white supremacist gender. And so to suggest that transness precludes you from participating in these systems is incorrect. And so it's valuable to understand that this is a system that we are all oppressed by, that there are rules in which that we cannot ever clearly achieve, and that what we are really gifted with is the ability to police others and whether we accept them into the concept of gender, which we cannot do, but we try. And that's what makes us happen.
Makeup tips for trans girls. To get rid of your 5 o'clock shadow, you want to use some kind of an orange color corrector. With these babies, less is more because, girl, you don't want to end up looking like a fucking Cheeto. This is about how much coverage I might use, and then we blend it out and let that set. Foundation, we want 2 shades, one slightly darker, one slightly lighter. With the darker shade, we're going to go in with heavy coverage over our facial hair. Yes, that includes your neck. Depending on how low cut your top is, you're also going to want to do a little bit on your chest. With the lighter shade, we're just going to do a little bit of coverage on the top of our face, the sides of your neck, so you don't emphasize your Adam's apple. And I like to do my collarbones so they really pop. And you blend like your life depends on it. I like to take a little bit of setting powder and just get my smile lines so my foundation doesn't crease. I know a lot of people get really nervous about doing their eye makeup, but as long as it's symmetrical, people will think you're a makeup pro. Or fuck it, don't make it symmetrical. Who am I to tell you what to do? With mascara, blink to put it on, and less is more. Because you don't want your eyelashes to clump together. If they do, you can try to use a toothpick or a tweezer to separate them, just don't poke your eye out. I like to use a lot of blush because I think it really feminizes a look, and I blend it all the way up to the edge of my forehead and do just a touch on the nose. I don't typically typically do this, but if you want to use contour, again, you only need the littlest amount. But it can be a clever way to minimize a square jaw. You can also get the top of your forehead to blend out that hairline and the sides of your nose. Once again, blending is key. And then highlight, you can get your nose, tops of your cheekbones. What do you call this? Your Cupid's bow? And your Cupid's bow. I like to use a glitter highlight because life is too short to not be sparkly. And last but not least, your lips. You can exaggerate the shape a little on the tops and the bottoms of your lip, but keep it clean on the sides or else you'll look like you have a clown mouth. Let's do one final set. Aren't we just the most gorgeous, gorgeous girls?